and welcome to the Meeple Mentor YouTube channel. I'm Jared, and with me is Holly, and we are coming to you today with our review of Dead by Daylight, the board game. If you haven't already, check out the unboxing. We showed you all the components and all of what's inside this game, and today we're going to talk about it. We played it 2 times in a row with a group of people, 5 of us, that we all quite enjoyed, and should tell you something that we played it twice in a row with the same group. I will say the first time we played, I was the killer. The second time, our friend Andy, who saw how much fun it was, for me at least, trying to kill everybody, decided she would step in and be the killer for the second game.
I have to say, Andy kind of slayed it.
Yeah, she was much better at it than I was.
No pun intended.
But it was quite fun. I was the trapper, and of course the base game has like 6 or so different killers that you can use, which has their own controlling player board, as well as some unique abilities and even tokens that are entered into the game for example, like the trapper. We started with that one. As the killer, I could lay traps instead of activating the room that I go to. And by creating a trap in the location between 2 places, anytime someone goes over it, they have a chance of taking some damage, and or if they're already wounded, giving me some additional survivor tokens that I need. So as the killer, it is, again, an asymmetric game. So one person's the killer, everyone else is a survivor. As the killer, I'm trying to wound and hang all these kids onto hooks. Initially, most of the information is completely, hidden. You have tokens that represent all kinds of things, whether it's the crows that let survivors take an extra turn, lockers to hide. There's a hex token that
Trunks
gives you
to open.
Yeah, there's items you can try to collect. Now, the biggest thing, like the goal stuff, is all in yellow, so you kind of know, okay, there's a yellow token over there. It could be the escape room, like the exit. It could be a generator, which you need to power a certain number of. And then, yeah, the blue is generally like gaining items. Now, the red, like I said, is the hex totem, which can give you like blood points, which both killers and survivors can use for their specials or their perks. Also, the killer can spend it to just take another turn, which is pretty awesome. But there's also hooks, which is in the red tokens. And once I know where these hooks are, I'm trying to get, as the killer, survivors that are wounded to be placed onto these hooks, which gives me some of their tokens. And if they keep staying on those hooks round after round, the killer gains these survivor tokens from that. But you're not dead, you're just out of the round until another player comes over to help you. I mean, it's possible, I guess, that all the survivors just end up on hooks, but it's not likely, because there's way more people moving around than the killer can kind of keep up with. You can heal as far as like when you get wounded, but only another person can do that for you as an action. So that's kind of a little overview on how the game plays. What was some of your thoughts on playing as a survivor?
Oh, I enjoyed it. My first character that I played as was very elusive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just pretty... I could pick up a pallet and move through a space. You're not traditionally supposed to, a breakable wall. You're not supposed to be able to move through a breakable wall, but I could pick up a breakable wall and move through and put it back down. So the killer just couldn't access me for most of the game. It was pretty sweet.
Speed. Agility.
The second play was also a lot of fun, being in immediate danger almost all the time.
Yeah.
So I had both sides of it, of like the true survivor and the, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Yeah. I think I had the advantage in the first game as the killer because no one really knew how the game was going to play out just yet. So I did fairly well until they started realizing what they could and couldn't do. And then, I did not win.
I feel like we had a, I don't want to say unfair because it's it's random, I'm sure.
Hmm.
But I feel like we had a small little imbalance with how many lockers came out versus how many trunks for us to search came out.
Hmm.
Because we had a lot of lockers and I only saw like 2 chests,
Hmm.
which I would have liked to have seen that play a little bit differently. Just,
Yeah.
so we could have more items to play with, if you will.
Most of the items tend to be one-time use,
Right.
and
I could have used one
you
here
could
and there,
only
though.
really hold like 2 items at a time.
Right.
Um,
I don't think I had an item the entire game, though, is kind of my point.
right, and that's true. Like
And
usually,
generally in these type of games, you use items,
and this is not an item-heavy game
It's really not.
like Last Night on Earth might be. Right, this is more streamlined. Like you get an item, you're lucky. If you use it, you're lucky. Um, and so the restriction on having two is just kind of like it's already a lot. Because usually when you pick up an item from one of the chests, like it immediately removes that token. There's certain abilities that allow certain characters to take items and not destroy or completely empty the chest from the board, but a lot of tokens get removed throughout the game, and then kind of naturally builds the conclusion of it's harder and harder to get away from the killer. But certainly early strategies are finding, chests to get any items if possible, and then finding, I would say even the pallets is good to slow down the killer.
Yeah.
And then the killer has some interesting choices in movement because there are set up breakable walls between certain rooms on the board at the start of the game, and for the survivors, it restricts them to not being able to go certain paths, but you as the killer can always go through them. But if you choose to kind of like get where they are, obviously, and surprise and attack and all that, you have now permanently opened up that path for all survivors the rest of the game. So when I was a killer, I tried to make sure that I left as many on the board as possible so I could try to corral the survivors a little bit. But you can absolutely use a breakable wall to your advantage to get the jump on them, quite literally, and it's a lot of fun. But you use these movement cards to select where you're going, and you pre-plan them simultaneously. So the survivors always get to execute their turns first, but the killer still has to plan his movement before the survivors actually move. So nobody really knows where anybody's going to be going or where the killer's going until it's time to reveal all these cards. There are ways to get extra turns. Like I said, the crow token is a great way to do that, and then the killer himself can spend blood points to take only a second turn. And I say second turn because actually speaking, the killer always gets 2 turns anyway, but he has the option to spend to get one extra turn, so he could potentially get 3 different moves and everything. But essentially, on your turn, all you're doing is flipping over your chosen movement card, going one of the path directions to a room connected with that type of move. And then when you get there, you can interact with one token, plus flip over a token that's not already revealed. So that's pretty much how simple the game plays, and because of that, I think it's even says on the box it's like a lightweight in terms of complexity. It's not very difficult to get people to understand how to play or how it works, and even if people want to be the killer and take turns, the killer would be the more difficult to learn, but it's not a whole lot that extra they need to do.
I would definitely speak to that it's lightweight because, I mean, everybody I know that if they're not into board gaming, they like Dead by Daylight, like the actual board game.
Right. And of course,
some of them haven't even played the video game.
And of course, we didn't mention it in this video, but it is based on a video game. And I will say, in terms of that, it does a pretty good job of imitating, I think, the feel of the video game. Whereas, of course, the video game, you have like a first person perspective and you don't always get to see all the information. And so, in that way, the board game tries to imitate that with the whole pre-planning your move and then seeing what happens, for that. So I think it imitates a lot of things really well. The art and design choices here are really cool. I like the variety of killers that come in the game. So you do want to just kind of try again with a different killer, just to see all the different ways that they can maneuver around the board. because it's essentially it's a movement game and trying to just get away from the killer and do certain objectives. Just it's like you interact, you get to roll the dice. Most of the interactions to define a success have to do with rolling one of the dice, and you can have a great success with like a high five roll or a miss, something like that, and then you only get like nothing or just one success. Um, it's pretty straightforward of a game, and I liked it. I think it was cool. I think, are there any things that you would change about the game, or anything that you didn't like about Dead by Daylight, the board game?
Not that would make it play better. There were things that I was missed about, but it was all in fairness of the game.
Yeah.
For instance, not being able to use the same movement card twice in a row because you get stuck in a room and,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you're referring to if you're taking multiple turns in the same round.
Yes.
You can't reuse a card you've already used, but every like round to round, you're going to pick up all of your cards. But if you gained a new turn, you have to use a different movement card than has already been played in front of you.
And I suppose, well, I don't know, because we had 5 players. There were some of the powers that I just really couldn't see how to work them in,
Okay.
But other than that, it was a lot of fun.
I like it. I just, for me, because it's such a lightweight game, I prefer something a little bit more crunchy, if you will. I don't know if I would add anything specifically. Like I can't think of anything else that I would say like this is missing this obviously. It's just a preference thing in terms of like how complicated of a game that I like. For instance, like Fury of Dracula might be more along my speed of complexity when it comes to a large 5-player game of people working against one person. But of course, Fury of Dracula is like a much longer game, much more involved. Not for everybody, but again, it's just a preference thing. So if you want a similar kind of feel with not the complexity, then this is great. It also is easy to gift to somebody who's probably not into board games, like you said, because the rules aren't complicated, and mostly people like the interest in the game is going to be enough for them to learn and play the board game. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it's cool. Yeah, I think if you like Dead by Daylight, if you like horror themed games or one versus many games, or you're looking for a game that is like Fury of Dracula without the complexities, I think this is your kind of game.
I just have to say, I feel like even if you don't like Dead by Daylight, like if you don't know what it is, it's still a good game.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I've never played Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
Have you?
I have not. Not personally. I've seen it played, but. All right. Well, those are our thoughts. Thank you so much for watching this, and thank you to Level 99 Games for sending us a copy to take a look at. And but yeah, so stick around on the channel. Watch out. It's a couple more of our reviews, and otherwise, we'll see you in the next video. I've been Jared.
I'm Holly.
Bye.